Hello, my name is Sibusiso Ngana, a BCom Information Systems graduate, and I'm following the route of becoming a data scientist.
Greetings, I am Lakiwe Lulane, and I've been a computer programmer for 7 years now. I have a diploma in IT, and I have a diploma in cybersecurity as well. I've been passionate about software programming for the longest time. However, I believe me joining the program of machine learning and AI, I came to gain another form of experience to include in my passionate path.
My name is Amahle Bana. I'm a software engineer and I'm also an aspiring AI and machine learning engineer. I started falling in love with software engineering, I think after lockdown. Yeah, after lockdown, that's when I started falling in love with software engineering and software and products and AI and all of that, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Osaretine Johnson, and I'm a Bachelor of Commerce in Information Systems graduate. I'm a software developer and an aspiring AI engineer, and yeah, I'm just passionate about tech.
Tina, I think you missed the part of how many programs you've signed up just to make sure that you actually get to that goal. Yeah. All right, my name is Lutando Makondo, a founder of Appimate. So I've been part of the program and I was a trainer, and yeah, it's been an exciting path. I started the path of software development back in not in high school, but I started interest in tech, investigating it in high school. But when I got to varsity, I only started software development at second year, and I've never stopped ever since. I started learning about AI when I was doing honors, so I was just doing some side research, and then I started learning about self-replicating programs, and I was like, how does that happen? And then I started learning that, okay, programs can be written in a clever way such that they do interesting stuff. And that's when now I went through the rabbit hole, and then I discovered AI, and then I started learning to build AI models from there, from scratch, with just raw Python. And then after that, I learned using NumPy, and then I learned with the different frameworks. So ever since then, I've upskilled myself, learned a bunch of technologies, and I'm at the stage where I'm able to build models, deploy them, and yeah, hopefully we can make them commercial as well. So I've integrated with some of the existing models through APIs as well. So now I'm in the path of learning to build AI agents. It's quite cool, and I'd like to be able to see how can we build those into humanoid robots. I think that's the one form factor that I think has piqued my interest so far. And yeah, I think I'm gonna move as much as I can in that path.
Hello, my name is Lusanele Kumnandi Matola. Education-wise, I have a BCom Information System Honors and a BSc in Computer Science. And as for me, I will go wherever I have an opportunity to grow and to learn. I have a BSc and a BCom. I like to solve problems and I like to be challenged, and if I see an opportunity to learn and grow, I will take it with both hands and I will run with it. When it comes to technology, I think I've always been fascinating in understanding how things work and why they work. So if it comes to technology, I think that's the best space to be in, to be able to just take things apart and put them together then and have them work, and it's like magic.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, it was a nice 3 months for me, at least for me. I'd like to think a lot of you guys gained a lot of experience, and you've got to see how the AI space looks like. You got to research, especially on the final project. I think a lot of you mentioned a lot of sources that I thought there were some fringe websites that not a lot of people know about. So I really appreciate the time we spent together, and I think I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot from you guys. And of course, I was also doing my research on the side. But I just wanted to check, maybe let me start with Matola. What do you think was maybe just your biggest highlight? Not exactly for this program, but something that you say, given that you just joined the space in the AI, what was your biggest insight about the tech in general?
Allow me to correct you there. I haven't just joined the space. I've actually been in the space before. I think the biggest highlight was coming into the program thinking, I know the stuff. I've done this before. It's going to be cruising. Only for it to be a huge learning curve and a huge learning experience. And it wasn't a matter of only learning from you, but learning from the team as well, the colleagues and everyone. So I think the highlight was, as a person who's always looking forward to learning and opportunities to grow, it was the learning and the growth.
Okay. Anyone who just like to have something that they think that is just quite huge to point out, maybe. All right.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I'll start by saying thank you very much, Mr. Maqondo, for sharing this wonderful experience with us. Surely you giving us this particular amount of experience and knowledge did not go to waste. However, I would like to say that I've actually learned a lot from this program, most especially being someone who has been doing programming for the longest time, but now that we've reached a pinnacle of doing AI, we are now living in the world of AI where things are becoming easier and much more complex when it comes to doing research. But being a person who's been doing programming for the longest time, me being behind the scenes and understanding the coding behind doing AI and, for example, GPT as a whole was a perfect experience for me.
All right. I think I like that. So I think the next thing that I can speak on then is a lot of updates have been made in the AI space. And one that I would like to just make mention of is AI agents. So in other words, we started off, especially when we started this steep curve at around 2022, 2023, where AI was just taking like a huge acceleration. Quickly after that, as soon as people were trying to pick up on the AI space, there was a huge rush to develop AI agents. And these AI agents can also be seen in parallel with what we see with robotics. The idea is to build these autonomous systems that operate independently in the world. That could be seen in a robot. It will go out there and operate on its own. And AI agents can be done in the background as well, under the hood at server side. So what do you think could be the most exciting thing? It could be let me say, how do you see the future of AI? Is anyone kind of like gone through, is anyone who has gone through this space, what do you think the next 2 to 3 years will be? Because we used to ask the next 5 years or 10 years, but that's not relevant now. So what do you think will be the next or the biggest shift in the space in the next 2 to 3 years?
For me, I think integrating AI into government systems.
Right.
I think that's the first step. Like if we could integrate AI into government systems in the form of identity recognition, in the form of e-payment systems, in the form of transportation as well, I think we could basically produce a society that is better in terms of, cheaper in terms of the living standards, where things are much more simpler, and yeah, that's what I'll say. Like the flow of the society would be much more simpler and less stagnant.
Mm-hmm. I think you're mentioning a point that is extremely exciting to me. Just the idea of building systems for the purpose of serving the public sector, because that is one of the avenues which you can have your creations get to touch a lot of people. So if you work on the space of human identification, of course the government will have an interest on that, but at the same time, there is also this fear of mass surveillance. So what's your take on the idea that maybe if you just start to have these systems with government, they might possibly be in the wrong hands? So what's your take on that? In other words, people might be fearful that this could turn out to be a mass surveillance system where you could be identified wherever you are, so you have little to no privacy as a private citizen.
I think before the government can even get into AI or utilize AI in public services, they should first think about implementing laws that govern AI, so that the public can trust the government that they have elected. Because at some point it could lead to a lot of distrust with the public towards the government. So the first step would honestly to introduce certain laws.
Okay, I think I like the aspect of regulation. Let's see. What's your take on it?
Okay, I was also thinking about the thing you mentioned about the surveillance, and it might help maybe someone who's lost or something. It might maybe detect where that person is. It might help in that space. And also, going back to the integration of AI in government, I think it should also be integrated in school, because not a lot of people are taught about the AI, and most of us realized that there is AI in varsity. Back then in high school we haven't heard about AI, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that the point you're mentioning, you are actually not alone. In general, in South Africa, we have a situation of a backwards curriculum. So a lot of revamp needs to be done in the curriculum. And one of the things that we're gaining from AI is the speed at which the education system in itself can be reimagined. So it could be moved from mostly pure theory, especially at like K-12. It can be moved to a more practical. And during practical experiences, that's where people will start to learn more about AI, meaning emerging technologies. Learn about robotics, because some people go to school hoping that they will work as, let's say, as an artisan somewhere, not knowing that as we speak, there are companies who are already signing contracts to build humanoid robots that will take on a job of an artisan. So I think the point you're raising is an extremely important one, and it's important that we, as a movement or as people, tech people in the country, we interact with the communities and let them know about what's out there, and make sure that we train people, which basically touches on what we are doing here. So each one of us who's been trained through this program will obviously now go out there. They will influence the people at home. So you won't look at the people at home saying stuff and just not say anything. You're probably going to tell them, look, if you are choosing career in this kind of way, probably in the next year or two, there is a contract being signed somewhere to automate the stuff that you're doing. So it actually can help young people to decide on their futures, take control of what they're trying to do, and also try not to do work that is extremely easy to replicate. In other words, you will quickly be replaced by companies that are trying to save money, because your job is extremely repeatable and it's easy to replicate. So now I wanted to speak on something else. What do you think needs to be built in South Africa in an attempt to ensure that this country is not left behind in this AI race? I'm calling it a race because companies across the world are competing and they have love for their countries. And so in other words, they are building in an attempt to make sure that they are not left behind from another country. So someone is trying to race against someone. So what do you think needs to be done in this country to make sure that the country stays competitive? What do you think could be the biggest unlock? All right?
Okay. For me, I think, number one, I think startups, I think it's very important to have more startups in different AI fields, so that we can tackle every single AI opportunity that other countries are doing as well. So we can tackle those opportunities. For example, large language models, stuff like that. Obviously, government services as well. Hopefully, those large language models can be implemented into government services, to make those services not only cheaper but more efficient, so that people can focus on other things.
All right. I'd say the primary foundation of creating the world you speak of is firstly creating awareness towards the people in South Africa, because I believe most South Africans are ignorant about the fact that this has been arriving. or in fact, it has arrived, because not a lot of people are as willing to like make research and find understanding in terms of the world of AI. Then the second thing I can put out there is putting it in as a curriculum in schools as well. If maybe they can start from a primary or a fundamental stage, then they grow with it. Then that way it's much more easier for even people who come out from varsities and particular schools to actually have a fundamental knowledge as to how to tackle creating AI and having the understanding as to knowing the flaws and the positives of AI.
Yeah, I think I like the point that you've mentioned. I think I'm gonna just speak on the idea of how to create AIs because not everyone is gonna be technical. So
Yeah, I actually wanted to just speak on moving towards not only using technology within schools and within the curriculum, but integrating it and make it an integral part of learning and education. I'm talking about a matter of moving and shifting from the thinking that when you mention AI, people think robots and humanoids, where there's educating people and giving them an understanding that there's more to it, more than anything. I think that would help us move from being consumers to contributors within the AI space and technology as a whole, actually.
yeah, I think this was something to say.
Okay, I think most of us here can agree that maybe if AI cannot be seen as a tech, maybe something, or it can be also be integrated with the degrees that are not in the tech space. Maybe even if it's one module that talks about AI or has something to do with AI, so that even people outside of varsity, maybe when they go to look for work, they can still use those skills they learned about AI, because as we see, our world is evolving and we need those skills. And I also want to mention the fact that that will be breaking the stereotype of people saying that the AI is for tech people and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something really, really, really important. South Africa is one of the countries, of course, given that we're in Africa, that usually prides itself on the field of arts and creativity. And some of the biggest creations that are just going unchecked and they are becoming so good, but they're not exactly in the public eye, is AI tools that generate music. South Africa is one of the biggest consumers of music and creators of music. And then there's also visual arts, creating graphic designs through systems like Bahle and Midjourney and many, many others. And then there are also tools for video creation. So in South Africa, we know that we also produce movies as well. I think there's a lot of Netflix movies that were shot in South Africa, and Netflix had a huge budget for South African films. If you go to Netflix today, you'll find a lot of like movies that have been created, probably in the last only 3 years. And quite a number of them are performing very well. They are popular around the country and seemingly abroad as well. So, in other words, this does touch on people who are not technical. And they need to know how can they use these tools to create the future for themselves in the space that they are in. I think at around 2016 or 2015, I came across someone who was an economist. He said accounting is a degree in crisis. So at the time, it was not very clear, but he made an example that there's a company that if it would not replace, I think, 20 of their accountants with machines, then they would start incurring losses compared to the competition, of course. So in other words, there were companies that were forced to somehow try to move people out of their jobs in place of machines. Of course, at the time, it was not AI, but today we have AIs that are specialized in accounting, AI specialized in law, AI specialized in graphic design, AI specialized in creative writing, AI specialized in movie writing, some in scripting. People who just write scripts, they think it's usually about their creativity. Just the raw sheer power of being creative and writing, but they are AIs that are designed for creating scripts for a movie or a play. So I just wanted to know from you guys, which tools have you kind of like came across that you thought were very useful in order for you to achieve certain things that were maybe not as part of your skill set, but you needed to get something done. So as we were going through this program in the last 3 months or so. Okay.
Okay, I think it's safe to say that I've came across a number of one of these AI tools, but the one that actually caught my attention and now recently updated as one of the most intelligent sources of AI was Grok. Grok was one of the most interesting things that I came to, that I actually came across with, and I saw that it's actually very powerful.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
For me, I would say, since I'm a software engineer and I was building the application, I'd probably say Cursor. I would say Cursor is one of the most life-changing pieces of technology for a software engineer.
By the
So,
way,
yeah.
Cursor is considered an agent. So they usually just say it's an AI agent. In other words, it's not in itself some AI model, but it's a system built on top of AI systems. It uses a custom model that's lightweight that they built at Cursor, and it also uses Claude, which is one of the AI systems from the common Anthropic. But you can choose multiple models. You can use GPT, you can use Grok, you can use what you find from Cursor. Cursor, smaller thing for the prompts. So anyone else who discovered like an important tool?
I'm fascinated, so is my family, with that video call type of setup with Gemini. It's like speaking, it's like having a conversation with someone.
It just
and-
shares the screen,
and-
and then it takes screenshots, and they just start talking to you.
Exactly. For debugging throughout the program, I've been just like, you know what, I'm struggling with this error.
Just let it
Video
fly.
call, just hey, look at the screen, let's do this thing.
Super good, man. Super good. I've used it quite a number of times. I just that at some point there was something that I wanted to say, okay, I wanted to upskill myself. So I said, okay, let me help it as well.
Okay. For me, I would say the entire thing, the entire program, like it has helped me to like have a skill that I can combine with my degree, because my degree involves a lot of this building a software basically. So now that I can also build an AI.
Okay, we have 2 minutes to go. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Tina, you have something to say?
So I basically, from what I'm hearing from you guys, I haven't really explored much with AI, but what I can say is that it's really cool that at the end of this program, I know that I can create something similar to, or something that could at some point become like similar to ChatGPT, Claude, or Grok. And coupled up with my software development skills, that could like really be a big skill for me, in the future. So that's what's mind blowing for me, and it's only after 3 months, so that's really cool.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I usually mention, I think Amahle might remember this. I'm a big fan of accelerating on stuff. So one of the things that I enjoyed about this program is just that we all engaged in accelerating the learning curve. We didn't just say, okay, let's just take it step by step. No one voted for let's just slow down. Everyone was like, okay, we're moving fast. I might as well just learn to be fast. So I really, really appreciate that from you guys and from everyone else who joined the program, who stuck with the program until this point. I think probably only one person joined and then quickly left. Everyone else who joined stuck with the program until today. So yeah, I think to wrap it up, thanks guys, and it was a wonderful one. And I think from here on, we're gonna build a nice and a great community from here, experimenting with a lot of models, because I think one of the things that you guys learned was the idea of saving model and then loading it to inference. So from here, we're just gonna try to take some of pre-trained model. I think there's one called Gemma from Google. It's an extremely intelligent model, but it's extremely lightweight. So you can load it on your computer. They even say on your phone. So you can just take that, load it, do any kind of UI on it. And then you can also use Llama or the DeepSeek one. DeepSeek, yeah. So, yeah, I think just to wrap it up, we're good.